This is a column of Russian T-80 tanks in winter camouflage, moving towards Svatove to reinforce the defense or be used as a striking force against the Ukrainian lines. T-80 is becoming more and more rare on the battlefield, and seeing these in winter camo tells us that Russia is preparing for some winter offensives. Right now the ground is too wet and too muddy near Svatove for any offensives from the Ukrainian side or Russian side, but as soon as it falls below freezing temperatures regularly, the ground hardens and the offensive is on. According to Russian telegram channels, Ukrainians are preparing for an offensive against Russian lines near Svatove also. Both sides claim that the other side is getting ready for an attack near Svatove. To me, honestly, it looks like both sides are preparing for offensive operations near Svatove. This analysis comes from the Institute for the Study of War. Look at this photo. The triangles are fortified Russian defensive positions like trench lines, bunkers, stuff like that. The star is a command center. Due to HIMARS reach, the star or the command centers, the logistical centers, they have to be quite far from the front line, which complicates intensely their communications and logistics. All leadership has been pushed out of the HIMARS range, which means the troops on the front line are left without logistics and leadership and communications. They are quite cut off actually. I cannot clearly show these next clips, but we need to talk about this. It shows a Ukrainian drone dropping a small grenade on a group of 11 Russian soldiers cramped together in a hole. This is happening on the front lines near Bakhmut. It is incredibly bizarre to see how these men react to the explosion or how they don't react. One man starts to get on his legs, but he merely shoves his way through other zombie-like men, only a few meters further where the grenade hit, and then huddles back to sleep. No one tries to change their overall position before the next grenade hits. 3 of the men don't even move at all. These men are suffering from moderate to severe hypothermia, when the body stops shivering and the mind goes into a zombie-like state or shuts down completely. They were probably cramped together in that hole, sleeping there throughout the night, and the nightly temperatures in Bakhmut right now are 0 to 4 Celsius or around 30 degrees Fahrenheit. No sleeping bag, no winter uniforms. They are surely sleep deprived, but more of all, they are helpless men in helpless situation. They have presumably ordered to hold this position and threatened with a punishment or execution if they fail. They have only been given one thing, and this is the direction of the enemy. No food, no sleeping bags, no equipment. I cannot help to feel a sense of compassion towards these men when I see their reactions to a grenade that came to take them away from this miserable situation. This is how it looks to the Ukrainian forces near Bakhmut. Some Ukrainian units there have night vision, and Russian conscripts are just pushed forward wave after wave, running in the night. Yes, Russian regular army units had night vision. The ones that did, the best troops Russia had, perished in trying to take the Kievan airfield within the first 3 days of war. These were the Russian elite forces. They're gone. This is a Ukrainian unit near Bakhmut. You can see they are ready for the mud, they have proper vehicles for it, and they are rotating constantly, because in Bakhmut it's like World War I trench warfare, mud and water all over the place. No soldier can stay in these conditions and retain his will to fight for a longer period of time. Ukraine rotates heavily there. Russians are trying to encircle Bakhmut, but Ukrainian forces are so maneuverable and their morale is high enough that I say this is impossible. Russia actively supplies something from China with their AN-124 cargo planes. Flights are conducted almost every day. This is another one of these flights from China landing. We are talking about 10 flights over the last week. In the last week, flight tracking services show 9 AN-124 flights to China and only 3 returning. We can assume, knowing it's Russia also, they do this, that they switch off their transponders on the way home. Since we just witnessed Russian soldiers with hypothermia without winter uniforms, we can assume that these planes are carrying thousands, tens and thousands of winter uniforms, tents, helmets and vests. My friends, I do not have a sponsor, but I do have Patreons. They are the sponsors, so without further ado, let me kill some Patreon names with my Estonian pronunciation. Reading you the biggest Patreons: Chris Pender, David Abeitia, Steven Williams, Sergius Kaminski, Brandon Montier. Thank you to these 5 Patreons. I'm going down the list with most given. If you have helped me this much, I want to be able to kill your name first. Thank you, my friends. And if you like what I do, Patreon link is in the description below. Who knows, I might be butchering your name. My friends, after this video, immediately, since this is a premiere, it will redirect you to my Artur Rehi podcast channel, where podcast with Preston Stewart, the awesome man who makes shorts about military, is starting. So immediately if this video ends, watch my podcast with Preston Stewart. YouTube will take you there. Do you see this circular metal plate on this destroyed Russian BTR? This is a Soviet-made manhole or a sewage cover. They were standard all across USSR, and since they don't really age, I mean, they're 50 years old and they still look the same. We have them in Estonia. They didn't even replace them because they work the same. This Russian unit has pulled it out and put it on their BTR to be the crown jewel on this vehicle for defense. This is a recently destroyed Russian logistics convoy. By the looks of the nature and the mud, it looks like northern or eastern front. Each of these trucks destroyed increases the attrition of Russian troops from the front line. Mobilized Russians in Sverdlovsk region, 129 kilometers east from Yekaterinburg, are suffering from mass outbreak of COVID. But doctors are unable to treat the symptoms due to lack of equipment. This is likely the result of overcrowded, insanitary conditions at their training area. This seems to be a sporting hall for a school or something like that. They have crammed as many men into this room as possible. We can see the sleeping spots. They are right next to each other throughout the whole floor. This is a paradise for COVID. This isn't the only medical issue they have there. There is also a mass outbreak of lice among the mobilized. As one of the mobilized put it, I'll quote now, "The lice are eating away at me, I'm exhausted, everyone walks around itching all the time, there are not enough washing facilities as the military camp was not designed for such a large number of people." This was the first wave of mobilization of up to 300,000 men. Russian sources are already talking about the second wave of mobilization being ordered by Putin in 2023. Up to 500,000 men this time. It can only go worse. In every one of the videos there is a point when we watch the Russian propaganda show. I can say that I almost regularly watch Russian propaganda show now because I watch it with you guys to analyze how they think. And I think it's very useful. You need to know how they think to understand them better. This is why we're doing it. Let's go.
Что происходит, да? Ну, с одной стороны, конечно, для многих это повод уныния, но если посмотреть на это скажем так, с какой-то высоты, то речь идет о том, что Россия фактически триумфально борется против минимум миллиард плюс человек западного мира.
Again, with the copism, it is really hard for the Russians to accept that they are losing, so they increase the number of their enemy, they increase that they're fighting with all of NATO weaponry. Well, it's not like that. Not close, not even close.
И западный мир ничего уже в течение года не может противопоставить России. Каждый рядовой житель России со мной согласится. Есть горячая вода, есть еда, есть работа, транспорт работает, метро работает, зарплаты платятся, еще и развиваемся. Еще идет перестройка нашей экономики. То есть реально это триумф России. Ни о каком изоляции России говорить нельзя. Тем более, что к этому триумфу России присоединяется сейчас Китай, за что его пытаются раскачать. Присоединяется Индия.
China held military games, you know, if militarists practice, they have these simulation games. They all held these games to take Siberia from Russia. So I'm not sure if China is joining the Russian triumph, as they call it here. I think this is wishful thinking from this propagandist. China has their own goals. They cannot lose America as their trading partner, so they cannot join Russia in this triumph. But since the flights are coming from China to Russia right now, they're giving something, but I think they're walking on a very thin line. They're being very careful.
Присоединяется Юго-Восточная Азия, Африка, Латинская Америка. О какой изоляции России можно говорить, когда мы триумфально побеждаем в этой крупной масштабной спецоперации? Теперь по поводу диалектов. Я сам филолог, отчасти не очень, конечно, когда про политические темы говоришь, приятно в этом признаваться, но вы знаете, украинский диалект...
Ukrainian is a dialect of the Russian language. This is said here not as a science of language, but it is said to undermine the Ukrainian culture and language, to put it beneath the Russian language. This statement is completely just a lie.
Соответственно, да, русского языка. Нет украинского языка, есть украинский диалект. Нет никакой разницы. Мы все это прекрасно на слух понимаем. Вам хватит 2 недели, чтобы вникнуть в этот диалект. О чем идет...
So you can see from the other dude's face that even he doesn't agree with him. But, I mean, it's a Russian propaganda show. You don't really want to look like you don't agree with it.
Почему Запад так нас боится? Да, враг стоит перед Москвой и Санкт-Петербургом, да, но де-факто, если Запад ничего не может сделать, а в перспективе 10 лет, 15-20, нас ждет восстановление контроля над этой территорией. Все эти народы, которые сейчас именуются себя независимыми, они будут вливаться в большой русский дом. Что это значит? В Европе, которая общее население 500 миллионов человек, может появиться 200-миллионная общность русскоговорящих и с единым языком, которая может спокойно претендовать и на Балканы, и на Польшу, и так далее. О чем это говорит? Немцев 80 миллионов. С турками, с арабами, с пакистанцами. У англичан 60 миллионов. С теми же пакистанцами и так далее. То есть речь идет о том, что появляется народ-гегемон в Восточной Европе. То есть мы видим, что Запад ничего не может сделать. Появляется гигантская общность в ближайшие 10-15 лет. И что это значит? Что хватит уже носить вот этот вот старый, значит, какой-то там 20-30-летний костюм потрепанный глобализма. Да? То есть надо уже его менять на новую идеологию, новое мировоззрение, новые структуры в обществе, новые структуры внутренней политики, в общественной жизни, в политические структуры и так далее.
All of Eastern Europe will come under one Russian world, one Russian-speaking population. Talking about Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and even the Balkans, all of that, Turkey. This guy is a cloud chaser. He lives his head's high up in the clouds, wishful thinking. But this is what Russian people are fed, and we need to know how these millions of Russians think, because they get this information daily. Human chain is forming right now in Brussels, outside of NATO headquarters, to call for more weapons and more air defense to be given to Ukraine. And I'm all for it. Give them more. I can vouch for this message. Ukraine is fighting for Estonia, for Latvia, for Lithuania, Poland, and then for Germany, England, France, all of the countries. Russia won't stop unless they are stopped. And the only one doing it right now is Ukraine, with the price of blood of their own people. So give them more, for Christ's sakes. With this message, I will end this video. Don't forget, my friends, that after this video ends, you will be redirected by YouTube to my second channel, Artur Rehi podcast. Preston Stewart, yes, the only, is today's guest. We had a very in-depth conversation about the Ukrainian war. I think you would like it. If you like what I do on this channel, then the Patron link is in the description below. I might be butchering your name. Thank you, my friends, for watching, and I'll see you in the podcast. Slava Ukraini.